Goyal has introduced a totally election budget. What's your first impression on the budget, sir?
Well, it is as usually expected. In fact, there are two things have been in the public domain so far. The first of all, the budget will have something for the farming community, especially some kind of a cash support to the farming community in line with the Telangana government's Raitu Bandhu scheme. Ever since the Telangana people have voted overwhelmingly in favor of the TRS, and one of the reasons that have been attributed to the TRS success has been with the famous Raitu Bandhu scheme. So this was actually anticipated. And the second anticipated thing was obviously the middle class tax breaks which the finance minister has proposed. So the first scheme, the assured income support of rupees 6,000 proposed for the small and marginal farmers by the finance minister is expected to benefit 12 crore farmers in the country.
Yeah.
And the middle class tax breaks which he has announced, especially for the income tax slab, raising it to 5 lakh. Those who have an annual income of 5 lakh are exempted for income tax. So this is expected to benefit around 3 crore people. So totally 12 plus 3, 15 crore voters are directly targeted, because this budget is coming at the backdrop of the massive defeat the BJP has suffered in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh.
Yeah.
And if you look at the analysis of the election results, it clearly indicates that the two communities which are seriously disenchanted with the Modi government. The first one was the persistent agrarian crisis has made farmers very angry. We have seen the agitations in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan and elsewhere in the country. So the assuage the feelings of the farming community was the first objective of the budget. The second objective was, however, middle classes have been the core electoral constituency of the Bharatiya Janata Party ever since it, even before it has come to power also. In 2014, behind the Modi mania that has generated and gripped the nation, middle classes played a very significant role. So the middle class is also social media savvy also. So obviously the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister aimed at attracting the 3 crore middle classes through the significant tax breaks. In the last 4 years budgets, there was hardly 50,000 increase in the tax exemption for the middle class. It has suddenly been double now. So that indicates there is a substantial attempt to attract the middle classes. We have been alienated from the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Sir, is it first ever time that the tax exemption has been doubled?
No, I think in the recent past, I don't think there has been such a massive increase from a 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh.
Okay.
So now whoever have an income of 5 lakh are completely exempted from the tax. And if you look at the tax relief offered on different saving instruments, like for example, if you have an insurance policy, if you have a provident fund, etc., etc., you have the tax reliefs. So added with that, anybody who has an annual income of 6.5 lakh need not actually pay income tax. That means a person having a monthly salary of even 50,000 will not come under the income tax bracket, because obviously everybody who has a 5 lakh income will have at least some or other savings, like savings like an LIC or whatever it may be. So therefore, it's a clear objective in mind, because normally interim budget, as I have been telling, doesn't get into such kind of schemes or announcements. Interim budget is only a vote on account where the government seeks the parliamentary approval for the routine kind of expenses like salaries, pensions, debt servicing, maintenance, administration, etc., etc. But in fact, this has been mentioned by the finance minister himself. I am not telling this. Finance minister's budget is that the parliamentary convention demands that I should not announce major tax changes. He began with that. But however, his logic is quite bizarre. He says, because the middle classes had to plan their economy, I am announcing it now. In fact, it is not the middle class who plan the economy, because even with this tax exemption, they hardly get 1,000 rupees relief per month. So a middle class household is not waiting for Piyush Goyal to announce the budget relief to plan for only 1,000 rupees additional saving which they are getting. In fact, it is the corporates, it is the investors who actually the high income tax paying people who plan their investment, etc., etc. The middle classes hardly plan income tax on that, because this is hardly getting a tax benefit of another 1,000 rupees per month. Not more than that, even highest that is. Those who have a 5 lakh income will get 1,000 rupees benefit per month. So 1,000 rupees benefit for a month is not a big planning activity, but the finance minister wanted to defend why he has come out with such kind of a budget. So it's quite contrary to the parliamentary convention. The finance minister came out with this kind of budget, especially keeping elections in view. There's no doubt about it.
So, sir, exemption limit overall, as you were saying, it's like annual income of 6.5 lakh. We are not supposed to pay any kind of taxes. So it's a bit matching with the EWS quota, right, sir? Yesterday
yeah, obviously the middle class. We have been telling about this paradox. On one side, you tax the people who have 2.5 lakh income. On the other hand, you call people who have less than 8 lakh acres as economically weaker section. It sounds quite irrational. So perhaps the finance minister wanted to correct even that anomaly also. More than that, it was essentially to attract the middle classes in a very big way, because this has been expected. So having said that, it's providing relief to the middle class, we should welcome that. There is no dispute about it. We should welcome the proposal. The only point was, why was it delayed for 4 years, and why are you doing it on the eve of the election, when it is not a mandatory that this government will be coming back to power. It's left to the people's verdict. So normally it is politically unethical to come out with a massive changes in the taxation and in public expenditure patterns on the eve of the elections, because these proposals will come into effect from April 1st of the financial year.
Can we call it a taxpayers budget, sir?
Well, actually not. As I told you, they have not made any significant changes in the taxation, because the middle classes were also expecting the changes in the tax rates also. For example, today the economy has changed. So when the economy has changed, the tax rates should reflect the economy. So tax rates, there was an expectation that even tax rates will also be tinkered with. But not much has been done in the tax rates. Only there was an additional benefit of tax on the interest on the banks and small savings, accruing in the banks and small savings. That has been increased from 10,000 to 40,000. So the salaried middle classes were given a standard deduction of from 40 to 50,000. It was increased. So it was actually yes, compared to the earlier relief announced, it's big relief, no doubt about it. But certainly not as big as everybody was thinking. Still, middle class was expecting more, but there is always a limit to the expectation. No finance minister can meet all the expectations of all the people.
True. And coming to Raitu Bandhu kind of scheme, sir, below 5 acres of land, if anyone is possessing, they will be given 6,000 per hectare. Can this put an end to the agrarian crisis which is right now going on in the country?
Well, the paradox in this budget is, at one point the finance minister in the budget speech says that we have given minimum support price MSP as to the extent of 50% over and above the production. So over and above the cost of production. This was the recommendation of the MS Swaminathan Commission. So the finance minister in his budget speech makes a claim that his government is paying MSP which is 50% over and above the cost of production. For example, if the cost of production is 10,000, the MSP is 15,000. So my question is, if the farmers are getting 50% over and above the cost of production, they don't require this 6,000 cash support at all. So it looks quite interesting, quite shocking. On one hand, you are telling farmers are getting 50% more than what they have invested. And the other hand, you are telling farmers are in a deep crisis, so I am paying 6,000. So it doesn't, both the things do not match. So then coming to the question whether this will benefit, it will certainly benefit, because 12 crore farmers will be benefited. The devil lies in the detail. How do you really implement? All this, the land records are not proper. There are thousands and thousands or lakhs of farmers who till the land, but they don't have a patta. They don't have a proper records to claim that it is their land. And there was no mention about the tenant farmer. That was also the lapse in the Telangana Raitu Bandhu scheme, because the tenant farmers are not covered, because in the Telugu states like Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, the tenancy farming is up to 25 to 30% also. So it varies from state to state, but the major flaw is it doesn't cover the tenant farmers. So therefore it is not a scheme for farmers, it is a scheme for landowners. There is a difference between a landowner and a farmer. All the landowners need not necessarily be the farmers, and all the farmers may not be the landowners. So like the Raitu Bandhu scheme in Telangana, the present finance minister also announced the scheme which will benefit the landowners rather than the real farmer who till the land. But however, there is a difference. In Telangana, it was universally applicable to all farmers, irrespective of the land holding and their economic stature. Even income tax paying people were also given. Those who had the farmhouses, those, for example, the education institution which own large tracts of land, factory owners who own large tracts of land, non-resident Indians who have invested in the real estate and own land, all of them were getting the benefit under the Raitu Bandhu scheme in Telangana, so which was a matter of criticism. But the finance minister has confined this scheme to those who have 2 hectares of land, that means 5 acres of land only. There is a healthy change that has come. But the question here is, what do you mean by 5 acres of land? 5 acres of land in a Sabarmati basin cannot be equal to the 5 acres of land in a Gangetic basin.
True.
5 acres of land in Adilabad hills cannot be equal to the 5 acres of land in the Krishna Godavari delta. 5 acres of land in Punjab cannot be equal to the 5 acres of land in Registan in Rajasthan, the desert area, Jaisalmer in Rajasthan. So 5 acres need not necessarily mean the same in every case. So this is yet another major challenge, and as I told you, there should be land records should be proper, you should have an infrastructure. Why I told that this is an election budget is normally budget proposals come into effect for the next financial year. Surprisingly, this budget is will be implemented in this financial year itself. Yep. Budget essentially mean for the 2019-20. It is rather surprising that the 2019-20 budget is implemented in 2018-19 because in this financial year, finance minister made allocation of 20,000 crores in the revised estimate for the financial year 2018-19 for the Raitu Bandhu scheme. Okay. So, a first installment of 2,000 will come before the elections. Because the finance minister knows this, because his election, the financial year comes into effect from April, and April is an election month, you will have a code of conduct. They can't credit the amount in it. So, they were so desperate that the money will be credited in the farmer's account before election notification comes. Okay. That is the reason in this financial year itself, 20,000 crores have been given, and the next financial year 75,000 crores have been allocated. The total estimated expenditure on the count of this Raitu Bandhu scheme is up to 75,000. So it's good that this scheme has been brought in, but it has to be linked to productivity of the land. It should be linked to the actual patterns of production. When you have, so you can actually plan the patterns of production based on the scheme. It should be linked to particular objectives in mind. But this is linked to elections, so therefore no such conditionalities have been imposed.
Sir, I fail to understand a thing. Why the simultaneous governments are more interested in giving the painkillers to the farmers, sir? Why don't they concentrate on the Swaminathan committee reports? Why don't they try to implement the Swaminathan committee report? Well,
that is if you need to implement Swaminathan commission recommendation, that is around 50% over and above the cost of production. You need to radically restructure the agricultural markets. You have to eliminate middlemen. You will have to make value addition to agriculture production. So there are many things which need to be done because the cost of inputs have to be controlled. So this is an unfortunate thing. Instead of coming out with a radically restructuring the agrarian economy, they come out with certain solves. But unfortunately, in a given situation where radical changes in the policy dispensation are not being effected, people are satisfied with what kind of such kind of measures also.
And sir, there were a lot of discussions that after Rahul Gandhi announced the minimum income guarantee thing, if they come into power, before that Modi government is planning in a big way to implement the universal basic income scheme, but no such thing has been mentioned in the budget.
Well, it's true. In fact, in the 2016-17 budget economic survey, the government proposed the concept of universal basic income, and there has been an intense debate on it, and even the economic survey discussed the pros and cons of implementing the universal basic income. So the Rahul Gandhi scheme is nothing but a universal basic income scheme, and he called it a minimum income guarantee. And there may be two reasons why Rahul Gandhi came out with such a promise a few days before the budget. He was anticipating the Raitu Bandhu type of scheme in the budget, because everybody, it was in public domain. People were discussing in the media. Even I was also telling that such a scheme is in the offing. So Rahul Gandhi wanted to counter that kind of a scheme. So with a much better version, or he might be having information that the government may even come out with universal basic income. So then the fundamental question, why did not the government do that? So why did it confine to only small and marginal farmers? It could have even introduced universal basic income that would benefit at least 50-60 crore Indians as per the poverty estimates, or varying poverty estimates. The reason for that is simple. Suppose the Raitu Bandhu scheme cost 75,000 crores, it benefits 12 crore farmers. So within the existing resources, the government of India can implement this scheme, because the budget, the total size of the budget has been increased to 28 lakh crores. So within the existing resources, the government can implement the Raitu Bandhu scheme. If it has to implement the universal basic income, there are varying estimates. How do you define poverty line? How much amount you will give? All that. So these estimates roughly range between 3 lakh crores to 10 lakh crores. If you want to really give 1200 to 1500 rupees per nearly 60 crore Indians who are considered to be poor, so it comes up to 10 lakh crores. Otherwise, if you scale it down, it comes up to minimum of 3 lakh crores. So if you want to implement a universal basic income that would have a significant political impact, the government has to spend at least 5 lakh to 10 lakh crores. So within the existing resources, government can't implement it. So it has to go for a radical revenue mobilization. What do you mean by radical revenue mobilization? It has to tax the super rich, it has to tax the rich. But what has been experienced? Government has been reducing the taxes on the rich. Suppose if I am a professor, I get a salary which I come, as per my salary, I come under the 30% income tax bracket. I pay 30% income tax. But a company which has 250 crore turnover will be paying only 25% corporate income tax. So it's, and in fact they can actually show a lot of expenditure on terms of if it is a business entity, they can show even expenditure also. So the point I am making is there has been a consistent reduction in the corporate income tax. So if government has to mobilize 5 lakh to 10 lakh crores, it has to go for a massive taxation of the India's rich. So there was also a talk of the super rich tax. So it has to roll back the myriad tax concessions given to the rich. According to the budget documents also, every year around 6 lakh crores of tax concessions are given to the India's rich. So even if you remove the middle class benefit, it will be not less than 4 to 5 lakh crores. So all this money, where will this money come? So this money will come only if you tax the rich, if you impose super rich tax, if you increase the corporate tax. So the government is not politically ready for it to antagonize these wealthy sections of society. They wanted to attract the poorer segments of the electorate, but at the same time they can't afford to antagonize the India's super rich. So this shows the class weakness of this government also. So it has no political courage, not this party. Even earlier governments also lacked that political courage to tax the super rich of this country. So unless you substantially tax the super rich of the country, you will not get resources that can finance a scheme like universal basic income. Perhaps this is the reason why the union budget has not referred to universal basic income, though it will be much more politically yield more dividends also.
Sir, what's your observation, sir? The communities which we were talking, the agri community or the middle class community, which were furious with the government, how much did the budget satisfy them?
Well, there is no limit to satisfaction. Obviously, the problem with the people normally is, if you do not give anything, they will ask for something. If you give something, they will ask for more.
Okay.
So that is the dilemma which every finance minister faces. Now that the income tax slab has been increased, they will ask for the reduction in the tax rates also. Yeah. Because this will only benefit the low income tax paying community. So the high income tax paying community are not substantially benefited by this. So obviously there is a more demand by the middle classes who are paying, who come beyond the 5 lakh income tax slab. So that they will start raising the demands in that. In fact, in the social media, the demands have started pouring in also. Why not reduce the tax brackets also? From 30% is a very high taxation. Why don't you reduce it, etc., etc. But the point is, no finance minister can afford to completely dilute the income tax. So because government also needs resources. But this measure is, though it is an election oriented measure, we need to welcome it, because there is also a question, why should income tax paying classes should get relief? That's a normally question that is being asked by many. But my point is, those who have an income of up to 5 lakh, earlier they were paying income tax of around 5,000, 2,000, 10,000, max 12,000, depending on their range of income. Now they need not pay.
Yeah.
So from 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh, so those who come under this bracket will get a tax relief of maybe 2,000, 3,000 or max 12,000 per year. So with 2,000, 3,000, 12,000 per year, they won't open a Swiss bank account. They will at best spend in the economy. They will buy a couple of dresses more. They may buy a couple of sarees more. They may go for a cinema theatre. They may go for a hotel second time. So my point is, such kind of a tax relief aimed at benefiting the middle class will convert into consumption in the economy. So consumption leads to production, production leads to employment, consumption expenditure results in taxation, you will get GST on that. So ultimately it is as the Keynesian economics model, it is certainly a growth accelerator. So if we give benefit to the common man, again benefit to the poor and the middle class, it is a growth accelerator. To that extent, even if it is an election eve budget, even if these measures are aimed at and oriented at elections, it certainly accelerates the growth to an extent, and we need to welcome them. Though the political intent and the content is certainly questionable.